Hello, it's that time again. Get up, get off the couch, and tackle your own to-do list. Welcome to Just Ask Bob Live. I am your host, Bob Assadourian. This show is interactive. That's the key. First half of the program, you're going to be watching a real reno from one of my past job sites in response to a viewer's email regarding a home improvement question. Second half of the program, get your questions ready. Email Bob at askbob@cable14.com, tweet at justaskbob, or pick up the phone. Let's have some fun with it. Call Bob at 905-645-3232. Bob really wants your questions. I'm old school. Plus, that gives me a chance to shut up and listen to you, the viewer. We also have a contest. Very important for our contest. Win a $50 Home Depot gift card. Submit your renovation question to Just Ask Bob Live. Your video could be featured on an upcoming episode. Video should be no longer than 30 seconds. If you're recording on a cell phone, please remember, turn your phone sideways so the image is widescreen like your TV. Go to cable14.com/askbobcontest for full details and to submit your video. Now, for those of you that are shy, you can still get your chance in the contest. If you don't want to be seen on your video submission, very easy. Simply stand behind and do a voiceover. From behind your smartphone or camcorder, point out whatever's wrong with your home, whatever question you have, talk through it, send it in. You have Bob's word that still qualifies you for one of the $50 Home Depot gift cards. From Bob to you, a little bit of something to get you kicked up, motivated, and off the couch. Now, back to the goals. This program, besides being interactive, does have two specific goals. Number one and foremost, to teach you DIY skills while hopefully motivating you to get up, get off the couch, and tackle those to-do lists. A lot of it's motivation. Now, can you just imagine for a moment the bragging rights, that beautiful deck that you'll build, that chipped or cracked tile in the kitchen floor for the last 5 years you can finally replace, throw tile up on the backsplash, change some door handles, some hardware, and right to the good stuff. Kitchens, basements, bathrooms. Now, goal number 2 of the program. If, for whatever reason, you will not get off the couch, maybe the ladder's not tall enough to reach the roof, that is fine. Bob's second goal is to once and for all demystify the process of hiring a contractor, as I like to say often, the right contractor for you and your own home. So let's talk licensing. Up on your screen now, you should be seeing my specific license. Yes, unlike other municipalities or other home improvement shows, the host of this show today is actually licensed. Now, why does the license matter? The license is the foundation for any home improvement project, and the license is the law. The municipality, ours, and many other municipalities in Ontario do a really, really good job of vetting and pre-screening these so-called contractors. At least my municipality in Hamilton, number one, you got to show up with a police clearance. No police clearance, no chance of writing the exam. You must prove minimum $2 million liability insurance. And then just like the book behind me, the Ontario Building Code book, open book examination, 2 hours long. They screen you, they check you. That matters. Now, if you're viewing this show today from a municipality that does not regulate or have a contractor license, see, here's the problem now. Whoever may end up working your home could have been pumping gas yesterday or making subs, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as they stick to what they specialize. But then the very next day, they can be doing renos in your home, and that's not right. That's a problem. You pay a lot of money in property taxes. City collects that. The least they can do is protect your rights, because without a license, it's the absolute Wild West. You know, quick note here for many of you to recall. Ever heard of the grumpy contractor, the cash guy? He starts the job, you ask him one question in your kitchen, he barks at you. You ask him a second question, he barks so loud intentionally, you don't want to even re-enter your own kitchen until the job's done. And then it could be a disaster. So remember, doesn't matter what it is. Disaster with your contractor, dispute with your contractor, did he or she run off with the money, the deposit? And of course, all your home improvement questions from the foundation to the rooftop. Email them to this show. askbob@cable14.com, tweet at justaskbob, or pick up the phone. I'm old school. I welcome a call. 905-645-3232. Those emails or those calls may be the basis for a home rental program on this show. We have one here today that's going to kick off the rental footage. Hello, Bob. With COVID-19, our tropical vacation was canceled. Wow, so was Bob's. This year, who knows what next year will bring. My husband and I are planning to create a backyard oasis of our very own to consist of the following: concrete or wooden patio deck through the entire yard. My husband never tends to cut the grass in a timely manner. Some type of roof structure to cover the yard. You never know when it will rain. Very true. A fire pit, lighting, TV in the backyard, etc. I realize this is a lot for you to try and teach us. Can you please email us at least a list of all the steps needed in the right order that we would have to take to design and make this all work? Love your show. Thank you in advance for all your help. Brenda and Steve from Ancaster. Wow, Brenda and Steve, thank you very much for the kind words. You know, COVID-19, from a personal note here, Bob's vacation was canceled back in March. My second vacation was canceled in July, and we finally got to sneak away at least to Shirks and Shores. You couldn't believe how happy I was that they accepted us. Now, for a lot of people, things have changed. We have an uncertain future. Who knows what this fall or next year is going to bring. A backyard oasis is just smart. It's smart in so many ways. These trips that you take overseas, they cost a fortune, and they don't build equity in your backyard. They don't raise the value of your home. These trips that you take also have risks. Now, putting money into your backyard is smart. I'm not a real estate agent, but do talk to your own. Putting money in your backyard is smart as long as you do it the right way. Speaking of which way to do it, the viewer's email mentioned possibly a patio consisting of concrete or possibly out of wood. Open your mind's eye. Your backyard oasis does not have to be like your neighbors or your friends. Your backyard oasis hinges on two things. Number one, whatever you desire. Number two has to line up with number one, meaning whatever your budget can afford. So that's very important. Now, as I like to say, and I've been saying for over a decade on this station, if you cut the crooked and overcharging contractor out of the equation, you're saving a lot of money. That money you save, if you're going to do it husband and wife, friends and family, that's excellent, because then you can turn around and reinvest that money back into the job. Enjoy the footage. This is from one of our past job sites. Welcome to our backyard oasis, a project we completed some time ago. Number one priority for the homeowners, their request was an absolutely zero maintenance backyard, meaning not a blade of grass. An oasis of peace that you can relax in. Every detail accounted for, right to the staining of the pressure-treated fencing, right to the ceiling fan and pot lights, creature comforts such as the couches and the chairs, dining set, sun protection for privacy and screening, maintenance-free stone, limestone and stucco, vinyl siding on the gables, wiring roughed in by us for a smart TV with the internet. Also, Cogeco cable lines. I must say the homeowners here have great taste in programming. Power over top for the electronics. Beautiful maintenance-free aggregate concrete surrounding just about all of the yard. A nice maintenance-free shed. Maintenance-free perimeter on all three sides. River rocks. Little swimming pool. River rocks lining the rear. And river rocks lining the side. A backyard with all the needed creature comforts. And not only a yard you can enjoy during the day, also a yard you can enjoy at nighttime. This specific backyard Oasis, the plans called for literally half the yard to be covered in a roof. So the roof's approximately 30 feet in length and just under 20 feet in depth. That takes serious structural load. So as you can see here, one of Triple R's finest, Josh on the backhoe, and he's excavating. Now, for those of you that want to do it the easy way, rent the machine, trust me. If you're younger than Bob and you've got an awful lot of friends ready to come dig, I guess you could spend a couple of weekends digging each of the posts. In this particular case, the clients didn't want any posts in the center of the length of the roof. They only wanted one post at the far right, one post at the far left. So that causes a need for a very, very serious beam. The beam is a 3-ply LVL, nearly a foot tall, 2 inches thick by 30 feet long. So that takes some serious ground digging. The footing's critical. Let me explain the footing to you. The footing, the earth is paper. The footing is an eraser and the column is a pencil. Take a sharp pencil and poke it on a piece of paper, it's going to poke right through. That's the exact same thing a tall, heavy column is going to do under load to the direct soil. So basically, when you put an eraser on top of the paper and then jab that pencil at it, it's going to leave its mark on the eraser, but it's not going to poke through the paper. So the earth must be undisturbed, minimum 4 feet deep. In this case, Bob's always overkill. We went down nearly 5 feet. The footing's approximately 2 feet by 2 feet by 8 inches thick. Another one of Triple R's finest, Andy Garcia. We chose on this job, for whatever reason, to mix manually. We didn't call in a concrete truck. So we had all the mixing done in a couple of wheelbarrows. Mixed it on site. We filled half the footing with concrete and then put in 4 pieces of metal rebar. Then we filled in the other half. For your maximum strength, and the drawings or the engineer, whoever designs the project, I'm sure they'll concur that when you add rebar to concrete, it increases the structural strength. We've installed J-shaped rebar. So almost picture it like 2 hockey sticks. Bottom of the hockey stick's embedded in the concrete that's in the footing. The other tall end, vertical end of the hockey stick is what you're seeing sticking up. Now there's a reason for that. You can see we've already installed the sonotube. We have some wood support on the right and left, and you can see the rebar sticking up. We've drawn a string line across left and right because you do want your 2 piers to be equal distance or parallel to each other. We haven't poured the concrete in the sonotube yet. And in the next photo you can see not only have we poured the concrete in sonotube, but we've also added additional wood strapping, wood support, because this is very important. When we place that pier on there, that sonotube, and fill it with concrete, we want it to stay perfectly plumb and level to the footing below. So those two hockey stick shaped pieces of rebar, they connect the sonotube to the footing, becomes monolithic. As long as you pour the concrete at the same time, it all dries together, which results in incredible strength. The concrete's been poured, the piers are intact. We've installed a 6x6 pressure-treated piece of lumber bolted to the metal saddle that was embedded in the wet concrete. The 2 of these wood columns are what's going to support the LVLs that run horizontal that we're going to be putting our roof rafters on. And now the completed footing with column with all of the finishes. As you can see, we cladded the bottom with stone, installed a double limestone sill, boxed in the top, and finished it in stucco. So this is completely maintenance free. Not only pretty for looks, but it is structural. This is what's holding up the actual roof. And let's just give you a quick view of the other one. Obviously there's 2, and they span approximately 30 feet. The electrical is very important. Now, it's not mandatory, but I do stress that you must put a lot of thought into this. You want pot lights under the roof? Even without a roof, do you want some lighting in the backyard? Do you want power to a future shed? Now is the time to plan it. So whether it's a wooden deck or whether it's a concrete patio, power must get from the basement to where you need it. So in this case here, in this photo, if you look in the far right corner, you can see that the wire has been run through a conduit inside of the, below the mesh and the gravel before the concrete people came in. This is going to be power for inside the shed. This is the tunnel between the homes. That's where we ended up coming out from the foundation with another circuit of wire. That runs in a conduit that's going to run all the way up the brick wall. Once it gets up the brick wall, it's going to travel underneath the future roof. And that's going to house the circuit that's going to power a ceiling fan. Also, that's going to power a receptacle for a future television. And now to give you an understanding on how we ran the electrical. The box to the left houses all the 110 volt electrical circuits. We ran 2 from the breaker panel to power this backyard Oasis. Now, if you want to look at the bottom, this is code required and it's very important. That conduit is flexible, it moves with frost. So it pivots up and down within itself. That way when you get frost heave in the winter, you don't have it break, you don't have it pressure on it so that it comes apart at the wall. That's very important, it's a flexible coupling. The conduit on the right houses the internet and the coaxial for the TV box. So we kept those in separate conduits. That way you don't get interference. Now let me give you an idea of how this is run. Travels up the brick wall. Then we punched it in through the side gable of the roof. And of course, all the way up under the soffit. Right into a weatherproof box. The gray box, that's your 110 volt receptacle, which powers the smart TV. The white cover plate behind it is for the TV cable, for the Cogeco cable box, and the other wire beside it, the gray one, that one is Cat 6 Ethernet. This is the other end of the conduit. As you can see, it comes up through the shed, through the concrete. Powers a receptacle, and then from there it continues to power the lighting for the shed on the inside and the lighting on the outside. Everything run in a loop, so to speak, back into the basement, then back up into the kitchen, with the addition of a switch inside the kitchen to control the lights on the exterior under the roof. Next we have the gas work. Now again, this depends on what you're planning. If your backyard is going to include a fire pit, very, very important you put some consideration into what's going to power the fire pit. You can very easily and cheaply have a propane tank there. However, nobody's going to be happy halfway through the party when the propane tank becomes empty. So if you want to plan it properly, that and a barbecue, you can use natural gas, but you have to have your natural gas installed. In the photo on your screen now, you can see we've got a nice enclosure box to house the shutoff for the natural gas. You can see the shutoff valve that's installed. Now there's 2 of these in this backyard Oasis, one for the fire pit and one for the barbecue, and another 2 shutoffs for each unit inside the basement. So in an emergency, you can shut it off in the yard, and seasonally, you can also shut it off inside the basement. Every luxury for creature comfort thought of, especially the gas work. This is actually a gas fire pit, natural gas, when the decorative tile cover is not on. So you can see underneath here, the hose travels under the carpet, behind the couch, and then into its own box with a shutoff valve. Now we've done the same thing with natural gas for the barbecue. Nice gas box to contain the shutoff valve. This way there's absolutely no need for the homeowners to be refilling and refilling propane tanks. Natural gas, permanent hookup for the fire pit. Natural gas, permanent hookup for the barbecue. Shut-off valve for each appliance in the backyard. And again, another shut-off valve for each appliance in the basement near the main gas line. Next up is the concrete forming and the pouring of the concrete. Now, Bob can't take credit for this. I must give a shout out. Pro Concrete. Pro Concrete, phenomenal company. I can't say enough about these people. I honestly endorse them and pick them as a Bob's top pick, but recommend them to anybody out there that wants the most phenomenal job in concrete. They can do plain concrete, they can do exposed aggregate, and they can also specialize and do stamped concrete. Fine fellas, and we had a great time working with them. First picture on your screen now is the view basically from the tunnel, so to speak, before you enter the yard where the gate would be. So this is designed to have approximately a 1 to 2.5 foot perimeter around the backyard. It's going to be filled in with river rocks, and then the rest of the entire yard will be done in the exposed aggregate. The reason we didn't abut the concrete right to the property lines on all three sides is because you have to leave a space. It's smart to. If you ever got to pull out a fence post to work on the fence, you'd be very happy you didn't go concrete edge to edge. Tremendous amount of supports, and they use the proper type of plywood bent to create the radius, to create the curve at all the corners. And again, a ladder type system here with the forms. Beautiful corners they can create. I prefer a corner because there's a less chance of breakage. A curve as opposed to a 90-degree corner. When you have a curve, less chance that it's going to crack and break off. When you have a tight 90-degree corner, I don't like the look of it aesthetically. Also, it is a point of fracture that can chip off. You'll see in the reveal at the end that this shed has a 3.5-inch lift. Literally looks like an exposed aggregate foundation under the shed. This is to keep it 3.5 inches above the rest of the patio, because the slope is unfortunately towards the shed, because the shed is in the right corner of the backyard. So by raising the shed, no chance of water making its way in under the door or under the framing. Again, look at the ladder work with the framing. See, these people at Pro Concrete, they understand we're talking about thousands and thousands of pounds of wet concrete. If this isn't formed right, you're going to have a blowout, and then you'll have an interesting shape in your concrete. And the final product after the forms have been pulled away. A lot of work to create this maintenance-free concrete. And the people chose an aggregate, which even down the road, if required, is easy to repair. Beautiful work. We specifically designed the shed to have a curb. So the shed, if you'll notice, was not framed directly on top of the flat of the concrete. It has a 3.5-inch raised lip, which will prevent water from getting in. We went to the trouble to make a specific slideshow and reveal for the work on the steps. The steps are absolutely incredible. Look around your neighbors' homes, take walks, look on the internet. These fellas at Pro Concrete have a patented form system for the steps, which just makes them absolutely phenomenal. As you can see in the picture here, that's the beginning of the form for 2 steps. I made sure to introduce this into the slideshow because what they actually did is they doweled the forms, the rebar directly into the home's concrete foundation. And there's also sonotubes in there going 4 feet below the earth. So these steps are doweled into the home and they're pinned below the frost line 4 feet. And the final results with the steps once the forms were pulled off. Absolutely beautiful job. Just gorgeous. Now I want you to really appreciate the form work required here. I don't know how well the viewers at home can see this, but these steps are just stunning. That takes a tremendous amount of skill to have the edges come out like that. Now we're going to talk about the framing. In this picture, if you can see the beam that travels horizontal left to right, this is a 3-ply LVL. Now for this particular project, for this span, the 3 beams alone were worth over $2,000. Now you don't have to do this. This was an extreme because the people only wanted 1 vertical post support at the far right and far left. I mean, in honesty, depending on your furniture and your layout, you don't want a whole series of columns or even one in the center, but if you do, that may eliminate the need for a $2,000 LVL beam. You can get away with framing the beam with possibly 2x10s or 2x12s, but you will have a lot of vertical supports in the middle. A little bit of a tight shot there on the beam, and you can also see the gable on the side. The design for this particular roof wanted to include a little bit of rain protection on the far left and right, the gable sides, with having it protrude down a little bit. Lots of framing, lots of strength, row of cross blocks right across the middle. This was built strong, this was built to last. It's amazing to see all the roof framing covered up. Felt like miles and miles of framing. Once the aluminum soffit goes on, it's done. Boxed in the 3 sides. Boxed in the side gables. An absolute labor of love. Now we can take a moment to talk about the shed. You should be able to understand and see that the shed is literally 3.5 inches above the patio. Now unfortunately the shed's in the far right corner, and you must have a good slope with concrete for drainage. If that was not raised, you will get, it's not a matter of if, yes, you will get water in your shed. Again, a shed's a separate structure. It's not a home with a foundation bored below the earth. So the closest you can get to that is by getting a 3.5-inch raise, and then you begin your framing above that. And if you've got adequate slope to the right, not only to the rear, everything will shed away, and your contents and your shed inside will be dry. Next picture on your screen here is the framed shed with the Tyvek house wrap. And then the final picture here, we have a tight close-up, something that you wouldn't necessarily see in the reveal, is the blue skin. This is again very important. We put a band of blue skin on top of this 3.5-inch lip, and then it rises up another 6 inches, and then the Tyvek comes down. Because the plan for this shed is vinyl siding, and vinyl siding does let water through, and of course you have to have Tyvek as a house wrap underneath, and then in case the water wants to puddle or sit momentarily at the bottom, it does have the blue skin to protect it. And now for the world's tiniest tiny home. Everybody refers to this shed as a tiny home. We've designed this with a lot of care and thought. As you can see, the little windows to the left and right of the door, an actual man door that you'd have on a home, LED lights set for security, dusk to dawn setting, maintenance-free vinyl siding. The shed is mounted about 3.5 inches higher than the patio in the yard. Extra framing and some specialty concrete pouring that way. You know, we talk about sheds a lot of times with homeowners. And this shed here, it's certainly not a typical store-bought shed that you throw together. This is custom. This is wood framed, eaves troughs on all 4 sides, cottage roof. This is a shed that will last forever. This is a shed that's maintenance free. Big, big difference from something you buy in a kit or a box and put together. The shed has its own receptacle. Again, beautiful lighting. aluminum soffit and fascia. Real keypad lock. Aluminum capping on the door jambs. Everything maintenance free. Absolutely no exposed wood. Now on the back side, it even has a downspout. We use blue skin at the bottom. We also installed a skirt over top of the concrete pad before the vinyl siding started. And then blue skin and then Tyvek house wrap. Completely maintenance free. Built to pretty well the same specs as a house. And we're just about at the end. We have the roof structure. We have the removed vinyl siding from the home's upper second story, bolt on a ledger board, and as you can see the metal brackets every 16 inches on center for the roof rafters. Everything real plywood, zero OSB, oriented strand board, otherwise known as fake plywood. Next photo here, we've installed the plywood and we've reinstalled the siding onto the roof. Next photo here, you can see we've installed ice and water shield at the bottom and then a full band of blue deck armor everywhere. This will protect the roof perfectly in the event of a shingle blow off, especially if it's in the middle of the winter and you can't get up there. And as you can see the broom, Bob's always cleaning. That roof was swept and swept twice before Bob installed a single shingle. And now the final finished product on the roof. Shingles have been installed. 3 roofing vents have been installed. Now unfortunately we did have to pull off approximately 2 feet of the vinyl siding off the home's wall in order to tie in and to properly apply water protection. Siding didn't want to click itself back on, so we did have to surface nail it. At a later time the siding can possibly be replaced. Now what we did here also is we piggybacked the downspout. Let me come back here and show you from another angle. When building these, water drainage can always be an issue. So if you see on my left here, there's the eaves trough that runs along. Now the downspout, instead of bringing it down directly onto the column, Bob wouldn't like that. That's not aesthetically appealing. So what we simply did is we discharged the roof's rainwater from this uppermost roof onto, which I like to call piggybacking, onto the shed roof, and it ties into the eaves trough at the right. So that just works perfectly. You don't have to have an unsightly downspout coming down along your pillar. And that's the shed you're looking at now. Now we did worry about the slope here. Unfortunately, we couldn't achieve any more of a slope or else this roof would be up higher than the windows. That's the bedroom windows for the home, and that's the bathroom window. So because it is a little bit of a low slope, we applied ice and water shield heavily, and we also covered the entire roof in blue deck armor, as you can see in the photos just a moment ago. Welcome back to Just Ask Bob Live. I hope you enjoyed our rental footage. Now we kick into the second half of the program live. We're here. We're ready for your questions. Send them by email at askbob@cable14.com. Tweet them at JustAskBob, or pick up the phone. We welcome your calls. Gives me a chance to shut up and listen. 905-645-3232. Right after break.
I said thank you, giving me the fire to hold on tight, and for my mother. treat people right.
Cancer touches us all, but together we can make a vital difference. Every fall, we unite for Illuminite, an unforgettable fundraiser in support of Jurabinski Hospital and Cancer Center Foundation. This year, the magic of Illuminite will be all around us as we go virtual. On October 2nd, enjoy a twilight walk in your community. Get in the spirit by displaying a uniquely decorated pumpkin. Show your support for the amazing teams who treat cancer every day. Register and start fundraising today.
Tune in on September 18th at 10 p.m. for the premiere of the 4th Annual Hamilton Youth Film Festival.
This year we have all our official selections as well as special guests each week. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome back to Just Ask Bob Live. We have an email we just received. We'll kick it off. Hey Bob, I am a Hamilton contractor, a real one, with 30 years experience. I think you spew garbage over the airwaves every week, bashing contractors. I hope the city pays you well for promoting their Hamilton contractor's license, which is nothing but a cash grab. Get off TV and get a real job. From a real Hamilton contractor. Now, no surprise to me, the producer and myself were talking about this earlier, whether or not this is the type of email we want to air on the show. Now, Just Ask Bob Live is not fake, it's definitely real. And in the effort of keeping transparent and open and honest, we'll air anybody's statement. This person deserves a platform, that's fine. Everybody has an opinion. Bob doesn't just dish it. Bob can take it as well. Now, whoever this person is, they didn't really leave a name or anything like that. That's fine. They can be anonymous. Again, openness, transparency. Let's hit it one item at a time. Now, as far as being real, I'm licensed. My license is up on the screen at the beginning of every show. The license is important. Now, this is not the first time I've heard the license being called a cash grab. I've heard that forever. I've had my license for almost 19 years now, and many contractors have called it a cash grab. Bob even has friends that have referred to it as a cash grab. Let me explain. The gentleman there, or whoever it was, had their opinion. I have my opinion, and the viewers at home, you make an educated decision, you weigh the opinions, and it'll sway one way or the other. Without the license, it's the Wild West. Period. There was a long, long time ago in society when you didn't have to have double deadbolts on your door. People could trust each other. Different times, different dates call for different measures. If you want to blindly hire a contractor, unlicensed, Wild West, pay him by cash, take your chance. It's not quite legal, but that's your right as a homeowner. Do what you like. In this particular case, the city of Hamilton, where my license is from, works very, very, very hard to protect the homeowner. Number one, if you've got a criminal record to any certain extent, depends what the trade board would determine, you may not even be allowed to write the license. Now, why is this important for the viewers at home? You have valuables, you may have children in your home. Sometimes the contractor may be working in your home from well before you leave for work, and he or she may still be working in your home until after you've come home from work. So, the police clearance, let me leave it at that. It speaks for itself. Then there's a point of education. Directly behind me, Ontario Building Code book. That's what the prospective contractor must take the 2-hour examination on. And finally, he or she must prove to the city of Hamilton that they've paid for a policy containing minimum $2 million liability insurance. So if this contractor you hire causes damage to your home, it's insured, it's covered. Do they have knowledge to work in your home? Yes, they've passed the exam. Minimum 70% pass on the examination. Have they been vetted? Is there a source where you can complain to the authorities, being the building department or the licensing department? Again, yes, yes, and yes. So that's Bob's opinion. We have the opinion from the person that sent in the email. And again, whoever that person is, you see the number. It's up on screen every Tuesday live at 7. If you'd like to call in, I'm happy to give you a platform. I'm happy to be respectful. But you also, sir or ma'am, must keep it respectful. And we can debate this live on the show every Tuesday between 7 and 8. All right, we have another email here. Great new show concept, Bob. How can I fix annoying squeaks in my floors throughout my home? It is a 5-year-old home, and the builder has ignored all my complaints since day one. Marianne from Ancaster. Marianne, thank you very much for the question. I'm assuming it's a recently new build since you've been complaining to the builder. If we can take a moment now and sort of go back in history, we've touched on this topic at times. There was a point in age where our homes, the main floor and second floor, you know, the plywood, the sheathing, the floor, it was actually made out of boards installed on a 45-degree angle. So those of you that still live in older Hamilton, if you're in your basement, you look up, you can see it. So an analogy would be the way you build your deck in your yard, that's how floors were built. The subfloor, that's strength. That can withstand the test of time. Bob's first home, which was nearly a century-old home, had about 2 squeaks in it. Then I ended up in a new build, which had 18 squeaks. So that can tell you a lot. Now, after the boards weren't used any longer, we're looking at maybe the 70s or 80s, everything was plywood. Real, true plywood. That was strong as well and very squeak-free. Now what they're using is OSB, oriented strand board. Bob likes to say if you spit on it, it swells. That junk's used on all flooring throughout the homes, and it's used outside. Now, to make a good installation, it needs construction adhesive, and then it's nailed. Now, I disagree with the nailing part as well. I believe in gluing it and screwing it, but if you're going to invest the time and money on gluing it and screwing it, you might as well do that to real plywood. Yeah, might as well do it to real plywood and not to OSB. So to address your question specifically, it depends now if you have access. Now, I don't believe you mentioned whether it was the main floor or the second floor, but if it is the main floor and you have access, then what's very important is you can wedge in shims with glue. You can cut cross blocks to match the joists, floor joists, either 2x8s, 2x10s, or whatever's called for. Wedge them in, glue them, and screw them. If it's a second floor and you don't have access from underneath, then what you have to do is, well, it depends on your floor finish. If you have carpeting, you might be able to sink screws through, but you have to be careful. There's actually something you can sink through that looks like a screw that you can break the end off. So good luck with it, but I'd still keep complaining to the builder. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Allô, Carole, do you remember me, your childhood friend who fondly recalls playing guitars in your cold basement, Bay City Rollers poster on your wall? I think I'll look you up by.
Why should you stride for the general?
Stride for me.
Stride for me.
Stride for me.
Stride for patients who rely on the care at Hamilton General Hospital, the Regional Rehabilitation Center, and St. Peter's Hospital. Walk or run this September for our virtual event and make a vital difference on the front lines and beyond.
Join us on the next Business Wellness Show with our guests Tyler Owendike and Mia Spadafora. We're talking about the beauty of self-care and how it benefits everyone. Catch it Friday at 8 p.m.
Welcome back to Just Ask Bob, and keep those emails coming in. Bob loves them. We got one up on screen here and you one. Bob, do I need a building permit to build my own backyard oasis? I would be doing the work myself along with the help of friends. Hopefully. Danny from Hamilton. Well, Danny, it kind of depends. I mean, in most cases, you'll need a permit. In a few minor cases, you will not. It really, truly depends what your backyard oasis will entail. So first off, let me give you some examples where you will not require a permit. And of course, please check with your own municipality. I'm not an encyclopedia or a computer here, but I'm pretty close to the dot. So now, if you're building a wooden deck and you're keeping it under 100 square feet, you don't need a permit. However, you cannot physically attach it to the structure of your home. So there's a couple of cheats here. There's a couple of ways around that. And by cheat, I mean it's all legal. If the deck's 10 by 10, but again, that's still a small deck, so you'd have to be happy with that size for your oasis. Now, what you do is you basically, peer it into the earth, or you can float it. Depends on what you do. Either way, bring the ledger board up tight to the brick wall or the vinyl siding, whatever the home's exterior wall is. Stay back about an inch or so. And then you simply cantilever your last deck board towards the home. So visually, you're looking at it. It looks like the deck's attached to the home. However, technically, legally, you haven't punctured a screw or a nail or anything through. That keeps you legal. And again, the size of the 10 by 10. But now what you also have to remember is you don't need a permit with that. But you can still get nailed if you are violating setbacks. So every municipality, it varies, and in different cities, it varies. The setbacks are the legal boundaries of how close you have to be or how far you have to stay from the fence, the border lines, from wherever the property lines are. So generally, you're standing at the end of your home, you're looking out. You have, in most cases, 3 property lines, right, left, and the rear. There are setbacks. That varies. You'll have to look into that. So that's one situation where you do not require a permit. Another situation, let's change it up here. Let's talk about concrete. So you want to pour concrete through the entire yard? No permit required at all. But be smart about it. As you've seen in our rental footage, stay back a certain amount from the fencing, or else it'll be an absolute nightmare if you ever got to work on a fence post or pull it out or whatnot. So concrete in the backyard, you don't need it. Let me just think a moment. So scenario 1 was the wood, keeping it away from the home. Number 2 was the concrete. Now, if you're running lighting, power from the home's breaker panel to have any type of lighting in this yard, that's different. So let's sort of switch gears here. I believe your question about permits was about the municipality. That's one thing with the city. There's also permits required with the Electrical Safety Authority, otherwise known as the ESA. So if you're running any wires at all, and you can do it yourself, completely legal. We've had my electrician on here. We talked about it. You apply to the ESA for a permit, run your wires. And again, this is smart because before you put the deck boards down, you have space to run conduit, run the wire. Maybe you want a lantern in the backyard. Maybe you want some type of power, receptacle, power if you're building a shed. So again, keeping that separate always. The electrical, ESA permit, City of Hamilton or whatever city you live in, no permit if it's just a concrete patio, or if it's a deck that's kept 10 by 10 and not bolted into the home. Now, as far as other backyard oasis, the one you watched in today's footage, that needed 2 permits. That had a City of Hamilton building permit Requirement was obviously because of the footings, everything had to get inspected. Footings, columns, piers, overhead, roof structure, setbacks, that got checked. And the second permit was with the Electrical Safety Authority with respect to the receptacle for the TV, the pot lights under the overhang, etc., etc. So always make sure, doesn't matter, you're doing it yourself. Doing it yourself, you cannot violate the permit law. We live in an age where this information's on the internet. Somebody can complain, city can come. Eventually, if it doesn't comply and you don't make it comply, they can force you to tear down your backyard oasis. So please, build legal, build smart. Another email here. Bob, I'm getting a quartz countertop installed, and I cannot decide between a stainless steel sink or a granite composite sink. Bob, which do you recommend? Maria from Hamilton. Maria, let me say the quartz composite sink, I love it. Like, believe me, I love that sink. However, that's not my top pick. Sorry, I hope you don't love it as well. You know, there's a lot of thought process here. And again, this is just my opinion. If you love it, you can use it. I'm just going to tell you the way I see it. The way I see it is, if you have a non-quartz or granite countertop, and it's the regular laminate, they sell the quartz countertops. You can drop them in. See, because the point is, it's not going to affect anything later. The way I like to look at it is, let's first break down the countertops into two categories. Laminate countertops are not a forever countertop. They're not going to last the test of time. So keep that in mind. Quartz and granite are what I like to call a forever countertop. I mean, unless you get sick of it or you stand on it and you crack it, whatever the reason. Now, when you take the granite composite countertops, and they're always undermounted if it's quartz, your countertop. So once it's undermounted, my studies show, and my personal belief is, you'll never unattach that without damaging the quartz countertop. Now, why am I saying unattach it? Because I believe that it will not last as long as a high quality stainless steel sink. So you see where I'm going at here. Stainless steel sink, I believe, is a lifetime sink. So the lifetime sink matches the lifetime countertop, the quartz or the stone, the quartz or the granite countertops. Now, the composite countertops, I don't believe they'll last that long. I mean, it depends what you want to call long, but I don't call them forever sinks. So when it comes time to detach that and replace it, I think you're going to have trouble, and you may damage the countertop, and now you're into a lot of trouble. So again, it is something you must research yourself. Now, with the stainless steel sinks, you're going to have to spend the money on it. Now, a stainless steel sink available at all the local big box stores doesn't cut it, because most of them, unless you special order it, are made in China. Now, believe me when I say this, a lot of them are junk. Those are not stainless steel sinks that will last. Their quality and manufacturing is nowhere near the quality and manufacturing of Canada, US, or especially Germany. So that's very, very important. Love the question. Good luck with the project. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back.
You can visit our website at cable14.com. Like us on Facebook at Cable14 Hamilton, and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Cable14. Missed an episode? Don't worry. You can visit past episodes of your favorite Cable 14 programs on demand at cable14now.com. Programs like Hamilton Eats, City Matters, or local sports coverage. Visit today and browse through all the available titles. Cable 14 Now is live, local, and online. Join us every day at 5 p.m. for your connection to the people, stories, and experiences on the Hamilton Network. Look to us as your source for the information shaping our community. Tune into Cable 14 and online at cable14.com, and follow us on Twitter at THN on C14, keeping you connected to the Hamilton Network.
Join us on the next Business Wellness Show with our guests Tyler Owendike and Mia Spadafora. We're talking about the beauty of self-care and how it benefits everyone. Catch it Friday at 8 p.m.
in on September 18th at 10 p.m. for the premiere of the 4th Annual Hamilton Youth Film Festival.
This year we have all our official selections as well as special guests each week. You don't want to miss it.
Welcome back to Just Ask Bob Live. We're getting near the end of the program, but you can still send us your emails and all your information all week long for next week's program. Email us at askbob@cable14.com, Twitter at Just Ask Bob, or pick up the phone during the last half of each program, 905-645-3232. Now, Bob is hosting a contest. We've got a nice giveaway here. Win a $50 Home Depot gift card. Submit your renovation question to Just Ask Bob Live. Your video could be featured in an upcoming episode. Video should be no longer than 30 seconds. If you're recording on a cell phone, please remember, turn your phone sideways so the image is widescreen, just like your TV. Go to cable14.com/AskBobContest for full details and to submit your video. Until next time, thank you.